Good Tuesday afternoon, everybody. It's Masters Week, and as we also know, last night in Indianapolis, Indiana, the University of Michigan Wolverines were able to snag their second NCAA men's basketball championship, beating UConn in. It was a tough game to watch, honestly. There's a lot of misses, a lot of it was not a clean game. A lot of fouls. Um, all that being said, congratulations to University of Michigan. They did an outstanding job. That gives, by the way, the Big Ten kind of the triple crown. They won the NCAA. Well, they won the college football playoffs with Indiana. They won the men's NCAA basketball championship with Michigan. And then, of course, on Sunday, UCLA, now a member of the Big Ten, took home that trophy. So a clean sweep for the Big Ten. Let's talk a little bit about CBS last night and Turner. I think that people do not quite understand how difficult the production of that broadcast was. You're talking about a 70,000 seat football stadium, a basketball court, multiple venues with regard to interviews, as well as the pre and post game show. Pre and post, we can get to that. Of course, Ernie Johnson did an outstanding job, as he usually does, along with Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, Kellogg, and last night, those guys did a super job analyzing, and Bruce Pearl, sort of mentioned Bruce, did a outstanding job of analyzing the game. They talked about all the key points. They led us into the game. It's a well-produced show. It was clearly, they did it on site, and that's not an easy thing either, because again, you're not in the studio where you can control things. Things can go quickly bad, but for the benefit of CBS and the Turner networks, all went well last night. So kudos to them. They did a super job. Broadcast went off without a hitch. Pre and post game went out without a hitch. And another outstanding opportunity to see two networks work together on one project to make it even better. And as I wrote in the Substack column yesterday, that there were about 17 mobile units on hand from Cross Creek and NEP, the best in the business, those two companies, and best technicians in the business, best camera people in the business, best audio people. The entire crew is world class, and so and the equipment is as well. So we got to see a lot of really good quality TV. If only the basketball could have matched it, but it was a fine production last night. Speaking of productions, it looks like, and we always are in a position here where we don't know. And here's a known and unknown, and that is there's rumblings that they want to expand the 68 team NCAA tournament by maybe 4, possibly as many as 8. Just so you know, in 2016, CBS and what is now Warner Discovery, we all know it is Turner, but it's Warner Discovery, inked a deal with the NCAA that was worth just a titch under $9 billion, okay? And it runs through 2032. At this point in time, they have no escalators. So if if the NCAA wants to expand, okay, the tournament, they can. But CBS and Turner / Warner Discovery will not be paying any extra for it. So economically, from a business standpoint, if the NCAA chooses to go this route, it is not going to make any more money off of it. Okay. So, and the tournament is exclusive to these two broadcast entities. So it's not like they can subcontract out, like sell another piece of it. We'll get to that later in the week because we'll talk the Masters, and the Masters, of course, has added a new partner in Amazon. So don't look for that to happen in the NCAA tournament. They can't do it, and they will probably won't do it. We'll see what the expansion situation is. Right now, 68 seems to be a good number. I don't, it's, you get watered down basketball. Well, I mean, there's 68 teams. Not every one of those 68 teams is ever going to win the national championship. Okay. Usually there's maybe a handful, maybe even as many as 8 to 10 with a legit shot. Can they make the final, the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 and the Final Four? Sure, it happens. Can they win a championship? Man, it's a very difficult road to hoe. So from a production standpoint, from a broadcast standpoint, from an economic standpoint, if the NCAA chooses to add extra teams, it will not benefit them financially. It may benefit them financially down the road, but not for another at least 4 to 5 years when they start renegotiating contracts. So we'll see how that all plays out. As I said before, the Masters, which begins technically, it's already begun because there's all kinds of great things going on down there in Augusta, Georgia. But we're looking at the tournament really begins tomorrow. We've got the par 3, although that's on ESPN. That's the challenge, the tee off of the basically the big players who are still alive, who have won Masters in the past, will be teeing off tomorrow. It's a ceremonial thing. The par 3 is not. It's a very entertaining little prelude. If you happen to get a hole in one, you get a car. So that's not a bad way to go. So it's kind of a nice little practice and getting used to what we're going to be seeing on Thursday. Now, I'll get into more detail on what is going to happen from a production standpoint with regards to the CBS, the ESPN, and of course the new deal with Prime. We'll talk about the announcers, and we'll even get some folks in here to chat about what it takes to produce an event like that, where you're talking about well over 100 cameras, and you're also feeding a world broadcast. This is a major. The Masters is a major, and it's very it has a great interest throughout the world, and so without question, the CBS main feed will be seen worldwide, which is pretty cool, and we'll see how it all works out. But to say right now that we've got anything, any fun situations to Masters, I think that the addition of Amazon is a good fit. ESPN, it gives you basically coverage of the tournament 10 hours a day instead of like 6 hours a day. It's a good deal. Streaming is something that the Masters is not afraid of. They've already done it with CBS with Paramount Plus. They've always done it with ESPN in their package, and now a strict streaming component through Amazon is certainly not something that they fear. let's see some of the highlights we'll talk about. Well, the highlights that few people do know, and that is that the Masters, unlike with these skyrocketing rights fees, the Masters does not receive any money from any one of the three networks that they're involved with. They've been involved with CBS since 1956. That's not going to change. They've been involved with ESPN for well over a decade now, and now they just started a new relationship with Amazon and their Prime Video. What happens is that the Augusta National keeps all of the advertising revenue, and then they sell it themselves. They technically, and I use the term technically, buy the airtime from CBS and obviously from ESPN and now from Amazon. What happens there is then they resell it, and those are the commercials that you see on the broadcast end. What does CBS and ESPN and Prime do? Well, they pay for the production of the event. Okay, so it's a partnership, and it gives Augusta total control over the broadcast, meaning they pick, they can say if CBS, if they don't want one of CBS's announcers or one of ESPN's announcers or one of Prime's announcers involved, they're not involved. Simple as that. They do dictate that CBS provide all of the coverage of the course. So in other words, in other circumstances where you might see a split of production, like ESPN may do Thursday or Friday, and they have their team involved, that's not the case. The CBS controls all of everything you see coming out of Augusta will be fed through CBS. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that ESPN and Amazon will not have their own broadcast teams there, obviously, as well as their own producers. But the actual camera work and the actual stuff that we see on the screen will be produced by CBS through NEP Productions. And it's a relationship that makes the Masters unique. It's also something that Augusta National wants. They also control the time with regard to what you see. Do you get to see all 18 holes of the course? In some way you do, but for the most part, no, you don't. And we should also mention our buddies at SiriusXM Radio. They do an outstanding job of letting people know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So those are things we're going to be talking about when Matt comes back, and we'll have some other guests as well this week about production of the Masters, how unique it is, how the Prime Video folks are going to augment what CBS and ESPN already have. Everything's going to be run out of the Butler cabin, which is on the grounds there at Augusta National. And so it's going to be an interesting week of golf we'll talk about. Let's go to Major League Baseball. And here's what we got tonight. Okay, it's Tuesday. Right now, Kansas City and Cleveland are in the midst of a afternoon doubleheader. No, I'm sorry, it's a makeup game, I should say. Makeup game from a rain out the other day. So that's Kansas City and the Guardians are tied at 1. The Orioles and the White Sox, that's top of the first there. By the way, top of the 8th in Kansas City with the Royals and the Guardians. Top first, White Sox Orioles. That game is scoreless. At 4:10, about a little less than an hour from now, The Diamondbacks, who are 5-5, are on the road in New York where they're playing the Mets. That game is a 4:10 start. Arizona is going to pitch Gallion. He's a right-hander. Pavetta is on the bump for the Mets. Pirates and Padres, the surprising Buccos, will be hosting the Padres tonight, 6:40 p.m. Paul Skeens, who's 1-1 with a very a very uncharacteristic 9.53 ERA, will be on the bump for the Pirates. All of these, what I'm telling you right now, all of the games that we're talking about right now are on the your local. So if you're in Pittsburgh or San Diego or the Mets in New York, Diamondbacks, you get the idea. It's all local. The national game tonight is a rematch, by the way, of the World Series between the Dodgers and Toronto, and that game's going to be on TBS. All right, at 6:40, down in St. Petersburg, the Rays play the second game that they've played after the hurricane-ravaged dome has been repaired. So the Trop is back, and yesterday the Rays beat the Cubbies in the ballpark there. 6:40 is the first pitch. Assad is pitching for the Cubs. Englert is pitching for the Rays. And that again is 6:40, Rays TV and the Marquee Network for the Cubs. Marlins 6-4, taking on the Cincinnati Reds, who are 7-3. That game is in Miami. 6:40 first pitch, and Cincinnati's going to throw Abbott. Miami, Alcantara. Okay. The Cardinals Nationals, that game's being played at Nats Park. Levator pitching for St. Louis. Cavalli, who's had a pretty decent first couple starts, even though he hasn't won a game yet, with a 2.79 ERA. And Levator for St. Louis has a 1.64 ERA. So you got two guys who have been pitching very, very well. They will be playing against each other tonight in Washington. That game, as I said, is on Cardinals TV and Nats TV. Brewers and Red Sox. The Red Sox, an abysmal 2-8 so far, taking on the Brew Crew. The Brewers, that's Brew TV. And Nesson's got that game on tonight, 6:45 p.m. in Boston. Crochet is on the hill for Boston. Mizalowski is on the hill for the Milwaukee Brewers. 7:05, the Yankees will be taking on the Athletics, and that game is on NBC Sports California and the Yes Network. As I said, the national game, both in Canada and in the United States, is a rematch of the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. The Dodgers at 8-2, the Blue Jays at 4-6. Yamamoto pitching for the Dodgers. I'm sure that the Blue Jays do not want to see him. Kevin Gausman is throwing for Toronto. Both Yamamoto's 1-1 with a 3.00 ERA. Kevin Gausman has got no wins. He hasn't had a decision yet, but he's got an 0.75 ERA, which is pretty darn good. So 7:07 tonight, Dodgers, Blue Jays rematch. If you're watching, us here in the U.S., it's going to be on TBS. If you're watching in Canada, it's on Sportsnet. If you're watching in Los Angeles, it's on TBS and Sportsnet Los Angeles. 7:40 tonight, the Twins and the Tigers. That game's being played in Minnesota. Local TV again, Tigers and Twins. Skubal is pitcher for the Tigers, one of the best in the business. He's 1-1 with an 0.69 ERA. He's going against Bradley, who is 1-0, and he's got a pretty darn good 0.87 ERA. The Rangers host the Mariners. Local TV again. And that game is starting at 8:05. That's Seattle with Kirby throwing tonight against Evaldi for Texas. We got the Astros at the Rockies. That's an 8:41 pitch tonight in Denver. Burrows pitching for Houston. Freelander is pitching for Colorado. 9:38 Braves and Angels. Again, local TV. Lopez for Atlanta. The Angels counter with Klitschnik. So 2, 6, and 5 teams battling each other out in Anaheim. And the late game tonight, which is a 9:45 start, is in the Bay Area, where we will watch the Phillies take on the Giants. Now, very important local TV deal here, guys. NBC Sports Network, handles both these two teams. NBC Sports Network in Philly, NBC Sports Network with the Giants. Due to conflicting basketball in both areas, you're going to be watching it on NBC Plus in Philadelphia and NBC Plus in the San Francisco Bay Area. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. Sanchez, pitcher for Philadelphia. He's been really good this season. He's 1-0 with 0.79 ERA. He's going up against Ray, who's 1-1, and he's got a 3.38 ERA, which is not a bad ERA by any stretch of the imagination, but it just happens to be not as good. Quick look at tomorrow night, or tomorrow's games, because there will be a national game tomorrow. San Diego closes out their series in Pittsburgh. That's a 12:30 businessman special tomorrow. All these games, until I tell you, are on the local TV. KC and Cleveland, 1:10. Get out of town day. Milwaukee is at Boston. That's a 1:35. Baltimore at the Chicago White Sox. That's a 2:10 Eastern time start. Texas, Seattle. That's a 2:35 Eastern times deal. Toronto is hosting again the Dodgers. That's a 3:07. And Houston is Colorado. That game is at 3:10. You've got the Nats and the Cardinals. That game is going off at 4:05. Philly, San Francisco. That game's going off at 3:45. Atlanta against the Angels. That's a 4:07. 4:10 is Arizona in Flushing Meadows to take on the Mets. The Cubs and the Rays will play an early evening game. That game is 6:40. Cincinnati in Miami. That's a 6:40 game as well. Athletics at the Yankees. That game will be on Amazon in the New York area. And then we close out the evening because we have that the only real late game, and it's before 8:00, is Detroit at Minnesota. That game is scheduled to start at 7:40, and that game is on FS1. Okay, so FS1 has Detroit and Minnesota tomorrow night. So there you go, folks. All of your information you need on the TV side of things. As I said, we're going to be having some fun talking Masters tomorrow and telling you what's going on. Hope that you are able to join Matt and myself here tomorrow. So until then, for Matt, who will be here tomorrow, I'm Jim Williams. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.